Hey nerds, coming back at you with some more Toddomation. So in the last video, we set up your Arista account if you needed to, and then we downloaded the cEOS image and we put it on your computer. So let's go to the next step. Actually getting my repository, which we would call a fork. Fork is just a fancy way of making a copy. Then we're going to clone it. And the cloning means that we're going to take it off of the actual, GitHub and put it on your local computer so you have access to the files. So you may have noticed that I switched. I'm now on Safari. Before I was on Chrome. I use different browsers for different things, and I'm pretty particular about what browsers I use. And for any of my GitHub stuff, I use my Safari browser. It's just the browser that I started with. There's really no reason or why, but I try to do all of my GitHub work, which is on the GUI. It's mainly searching and looking for things because, once you have a repo, you really want to fork it and then clone it to your local directory and then use your, IDE, your integrated development environment, which mine is VS Code. And that's where you make the changes. You probably don't want to get in the habit of doing it on the GUI because that's not really very automated, right? It's very manual changes. Not to say that we're not making manual changes to these files, but doing it in VS Code, you'll just find is where most developers do these types of things. And it gives you a single source for what you're doing. So let's learn how to do it. So I'm going to do a couple of things. One, I'm going to do it from the GitHub, but I'm going to use the desktop client that GitHub provides. So if you don't have the desktop client, I'd certainly recommend getting it. It's pretty easy. You can just go, now I'm using a Mac. If you're using a Windows, you obviously want to do it, right? And then you can just download the GitHub Desktop here. Obviously, I have a Mac. I'm using an M chip, so I would use the Apple Silicon. If it's Windows, it obviously, you would download for Windows, okay? And then you would do it there. So I would certainly recommend having the GitHub Desktop. It makes it very simpler, very simple. It makes it very simple, especially if you're not super used to doing a lot of Git type activities, whether you be on GitHub or GitLab or wherever you're at. Obviously, we're on GitHub for this one. So I recommend downloading that GitHub Desktop. If you need to do that, go ahead and hit pause and then come back. So once you're on GitHub, you've already got your GitHub account. You can just search for Todd H. Simmons, just a Google search, just GitHub Todd H. Simmons. It should find my account. Or you can search for CLab demos. If you're already in GitHub and you do a full search, you want to remove that, and you did CLab demos, it'll come out. There's only one, right? So doing the search for that is going to show it's in my account in CLab demos. Clicking on that will bring you into the actual repository. If you're on my page and you're on the overview page, I have a couple of things pinned. I've got the CLab demos and, of course, the Toddomation. If you've watched any of my other videos, this is where a lot of the code and stuff ends up. But this is a very special one. This is a full playlist of series. So we would go to this CLab demos. So if you started out here, just click on CLab demos. That's going to get you into the actual repository. Now you'll see that there's only one branch. I don't have a bunch of different branches on this one. And these are the files that are in the repository. And we'll talk about these files a little bit more later. But what you want to do initially, just to get it into your GitHub, is a fork. So we would hit this down arrow and it says you don't have any forks. That's because I haven't forked my own repository. So I'm going to create the fork. When you do that, it just says a fork is a copy of the repository without changing the original stuff. Now, it's not going to let me create a fork because it's not going to let me fork my own repository. So in order to continue the demo, I'm going to go to an Arista repository and just show you the rest of it and how that works. So I'm just going to go to GitHub and just do a search for Arista. And that's going to bring me the Arista Networks GitHub. So I'm going to come here and let's just go AVD. And once again, this is just going to show you how to fork it. I'm going to hit this, and I actually have a fork of this one, so it's not going to work. I don't have a fork of this one. All right, so you're still in Toddomation. You're still in CLab demos. So now that you've opened it, this is CLab demos. So we're going to hit the down arrow next to code, And then we want to be on this local tab. Okay, and you should have installed the GitHub Desktop. You're going to click on GitHub Desktop, and then I'm going to allow it. Okay, so I'm actually going to bring this over to my other window so we can all see it. Okay, and it's saying clone a repository. It's got the URL. It filled all this out for me. That's why I like the desktop. Okay, and it's going to take it and put it in a local path. Now, I already have a GitHub a GitHub folder where I create for all of my remote repositories. So you'll just select your local path. It can be in documents, it can be in downloads, it can be anywhere you want. My recommendation, though, is definitely create a GitHub folder, and then you can have all of your local repos. That's what they're called when you put them on yours, on the device. And then, the remote side is going to be the actual cloud. So I'm going to hit clone. Okay, so it clones it, and that's it. It's literally that simple. So it can be done from the CLI. I'm not going to show you that way. This is the easiest way. If you're pretty experienced with Git and GitHub specifically, this would have been enough and you could have done it on your own. So in the next one, we're going to talk about VS Code, which you can probably see a button there. It's pretty simple at this point, but we're just going to show you a couple of things in VS Code. So that's it for forking my repository. Hopefully you didn't have any problems with that, and we'll see you in the next video. Until then, talk to y'all later, nerds. Bye.